Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here. I got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which means it's once again time for another one of our weekly viewer specials. Before we get into that real quick, I just wanted to mention, in case you didn't see yesterday's video, I'm starting a new style video on this channel, Deck Primers, replacing the sort of weekly replay uploads, going for a new format that's hopefully a little bit more informative and streamlined, as opposed to just me kind of like rambling over a few replays. So, first one debuted yesterday is a primer for Fiendsmith Ryzeal. Got two more coming out this week. I'd be really appreciative if you supported them. And just left me some honest feedback about them. I'm pretty proud of how these turned out. Hopefully you all enjoy them as well. If you want to see the deck primers coming out later this week, now you can actually do so because channel members get early access to videos as soon as they are uploaded, sometimes up to a week early. So again, if you're interested, please check those out. You can hit join next to the subscribe button. But anyway, let's get into the viewer special. So this, of course, is our weekly series where we showcase games from you, all the viewers. If you want to get in on that, then you can head down to the description below. There's going to be an invite link to our Discord server, the HexLexPlex. There, you can submit your replay under the viewer special submissions channel. I'll need your 9-digit ID here. Please make sure that's entered correctly. That way I can view your publicly saved replays. Please make sure those are set to public. If they're not, I cannot see them. If you have a specific game you want me to see, leave either your opponent's name or the date and time or a screenshot. Just something that I know that that's the game you want me to watch. But yeah, that's about all I got for my opening spiel, so let's get right on into it. Okay, first game comes to us from Meteoric. Meteoric's got a game where they are playing a Dragon Link build, particularly a small world variant. Looks like we're also rocking the Dark End Evaporation Dragons here. Let's do some fusion summoning. The full metal red eyes as well. I think this is pretty standard Dragon Link now, though. So yeah, build looks pretty solid overall. It's been a while since I've played Dragon Link myself, or played against it, so I'm eager to see this here. And then our opponent is going to be on Primite Blue Eyes, but they're doing like the Dragon Master Magia stuff, so they're playing some kind of weird cards like the Chaos Max and the Abyss Dragon. Also playing the Imperial Dragon for Primite for some reason, so not like the most standard build, but I guess not the most horrible either. Anyway, let's get into this going second duel. Commentary for this video might sound a little bit weird. This is actually my second attempt at recording. I spent 45 minutes recording this video, only to realize that I had used the wrong mic. I caught my voice on a mic I didn't even know was plugged in, so anyway, our opponent's going to leave with Sage here. We're going to hit him with the Ash Blossom. So I was just going to say, sorry if my commentary sounds a little bit weird, as I've already seen these games, but hopefully that won't affect it too much. Anyway, so we're going to call by the Ash against the Sage here. Which means they should be able to represent full Primite Blue Eyes combo, right? This should lead to 2 Spirit Dragons. Now, our opponent is on a different sort of Blue Eyes build, so they might try to go for something different. They might try to set up the Dragon Master Magia instead, but either way, that Ash Blossom was about all we had as far as disruption goes. It's actually all we had at all. And looking at our hand here, we are looking for an at least decent top deck. We do have the Dark End Evaporation Dragon, so we could special it and then fuse, if nothing else, like send Absorrouter, Collapse Serpent, search off Absorrouter, maybe summon off Dark Metal, but yeah, no Light Dragon here, unfortunately, for the Collapse Serpent. Not in our graveyard, anyway. Our opponent's gonna have plenty of Light Dragons in theirs. Although Collapse Serpent doesn't need a Light Dragon, right? Just needs a, yeah, anyway. Okay, here's the Sage being discarded. Triggers the Maiden to activate. Maiden effect revives one of the Blue Eyes. And Sage is going to send to summon Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon. Now they're getting an extra normal summon for a Master with Eyes of Blue. Not really sure what that's doing here, but it's going to return the Sage to their hand. And then let them sync for Spirit Dragon. So they only end up setting up 1 Spirit Dragon, but they also did set up the Ultimate Fusion. So it looks like they are going to go for Dragon Master Magia here. Alright, Chaos Space is pretty good. Or I guess it would have been if not for the Ash Blossom. Rip us. But they're also going to fire off the Ultimate Fusion here. using the Chaos Max in hand with the Blue Eyes ultimate they sent earlier, which of course will summon the Dragon Master Magia. Now the Ash Blossom, as you can see there, it actually got negated. Was that because of the ultimate spirit? No, it wouldn't be the Spirit Dragon. That's an activated effect. Does Master Magia have like a continuous effect I'm not aware of? This happens a lot in this duel. There's some kind of conditioner effect that's going to negate a lot of stuff here that I'm really not privy to. I remember the first time I watched this trying to figure this out as well. Comment section, I'm sure, as always, will be able to help me out here. But yeah, I'm not really sure why that Ash Blossom didn't resolve. I mean, good for us, right? It's not like we didn't get... Oh no, call by, that's right, that's what it was. That's not the only thing, though. Anyway, we'll get to that later part when we get to it, but... I will say, I think our opponent kind of, used the Dragon Master Magia negates way too early here. This is something that... And there goes the Ultimate Spirit Dragon negate right there. This is something that I've definitely talked about a lot before. It's a skill that I find Yu-Gi-Oh! Players as a whole just do not respect at all, which is using negates, right? Everybody talks like once you've set up 3 or more negates on an end board, you've already won the duel. But as our opponent's proving here, there are a lot of times where players will set up multiple negates and then just completely fumble actually using them. Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, I find, do not respect knowing when to use negates as a skill. I've actually been insulted for insinuating that it is a skill, and been told I'm dumb for that. I've been told a lot of that. Anyway, that's my own gripes with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, but no, it absolutely is a skill. I mean, as our opponent demonstrated here, they use the negates in all the wrong spots. This is why knowing decks, even if you're not playing them, is actually very important, right? Knowing how other decks combo, knowing what cards are important to them, knowing what their end board's gonna look like, knowing what they're trying to achieve, knowing how they're gonna try to OTK you. These are all crucial to stopping your opponents with your negates. So yeah, our opponents already used the Ultimate Spirit negate and the Magia Monster and Spell negates like a million years ago. It makes sense why, you know, they're now all of a sudden not really able to do very much when... If they had timed the negates properly, they probably would have been able to stop us. Maybe not, maybe I'm mistaken about that, but... Well, I know with the Magia in particular, right? The spell negate, it negates the activation or the effect, meaning they could have not only waited for Ravine, excuse me, but also they could have even waited for us to discard off of Ravine's effect, costing us a card in hand before negating the Dragon Ravine. Alright, Boral Dragon can battle multiple times here, but still can't battle over the 4K defense of Ultimate Spirit and Dragon Master Magia. End phase Ultimate Spirit's gonna bring back the Tyrant Dragon. And now here's where I start getting a little bit confused, because our opponent's gonna try to use Dragon Master Magia to negate our Max Metamorph. But then it gets negated. And it's not the Boral Dragon, because that's not a continuous effect. That we didn't activate anything to negate it. It was some kind of continuous effect that is negating this card. I don't think it's Ultimate Spirit, right? Yeah, that doesn't suddenly start negating the card. So I don't know. It's not the Max Metamorph, right? No, that only really cares about spell cards. Tyrant Dragon doesn't have something that's negating it, right? True Light isn't negating it, right? I can't figure out. I'm sure, again, the comments will let me know. But I cannot figure out what's negating this Dragon Master Magia. I mean, we're definitely glad for it either way, right? We still have to deal with 5k attack, but... Yeah, they're going to try to stop our Full Metal. They can't. Full Metal Dragon's going to negate the field spell and then also deal 5k thanks to the damage effect. Going for Roar of the Blue-Eyed to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon. This will also trigger the Maiden F. We're going to go for the Rocket Tracer here, popping our Delindrous Dragon. Summoning Rocket Caliber from deck. This will trigger the Regained, putting back the Delindrous to draw a card. Still, we're going to try to stop it with the Magia, but we still just going to get negated. I still don't know what's causing that. Sync for 9. This is the other Spirit Dragon coming down in attack mode here. Borland Dragon F. We're going to get rid of their, or negate rather, their Tyrant Dragon. They're using the Majesty to pop a couple of our cards, but yeah, they're not able to reset the Majesty thanks to us negating it. That was a good call. Alright, going into our next turn here, Borland's going to activate on the Spirit Dragon, negating to revive the Rocket Tracer. But we can simply use the Full Metal Dragon in order to just win the game here. Because our opponent has a Dragon Master Magic, they're just going to take another 5k here. And there goes the duel. Alright, good stuff. Thank you very much, Meteoric. Yeah, going second as Dragon Link, not the easiest thing in the world, especially in the wake of, you know, a board like that. But again, I mean, it all comes down to not how many negates you have, but how well can you use them. Always going to be the more important question there. But in any case, thank you very much for that submission. Let's go ahead and go on to our next one. Okay, next game comes to us from Half Brain, aka the Golem of Prague, over on Discord, who has a game playing Chimera. Much like Dragon Link, this is another deck that we just have not seen, or I haven't seen anyway, in quite a while. I think it's really easy to feel like decks like Chimera and Dragon Link that aren't getting played anymore are just bad now. Not the case at all, not even a little bit though, because that's just a common, I feel like that's a common assumption that a lot of players make in their head, often without even fully realizing it, that like, oh, if a deck isn't being played, it must be bad. But that's definitely not true. I mean, look at any number of Yu-Gi-Oh! Retro formats, right? And you'll see, when they're revisited, a number of decks that were sleepers are actually really, really good. But I think we're going up against Fiendsmith Ryzeal. Alright, let's go ahead and check out this duel. 8-turn grind game here. Not terribly surprising coming from Chimera, though. You might not think this just reading their cards, or even if you played against them, you might not necessarily think this, but I think of Chimera as a control deck. I think Chimera is absolutely a control deck. It really does aim to win most of its duels by slowly grinding your opponent out of resources, right? Building up your board in hand while you're taking away from your opponents. I mean, hell, even look at this Chimera Fusion summon here, right? It's kind of the perfect epitome of, you know, what this deck is all about. We're going to summon the Chimera, and we can not only use Gazelle to get a search, and the Chimera Fusion can add itself back, but then also the Gazelle, or the Chimera rather, is going to hand rip our opponent. So as we are taking from our opponent's resources, we are at the same time steadily building up our own. That's again going to be the core of the Chimera strategy, which really is a control strategy. I think a lot of people think of control decks, they think of something like Labyrinth or Sky Striker, where they set a million back rows and that's what a control deck is, but no, there are many different kinds of control decks out there. Alright, opponent's going to lead with Bonfire for Ice Ryzeal, Ice for Sword, Sword for X, and then they're going to Link, not Xyz Summon, because of course this is the Fiendsmith variant, so they're going to go for Moon, try to pivot into Fiendsmith plays here. But once Moon is on the board, we're going to flip up the Chimera Fusion, using the 1 card on field, the 2 in hand. I guess summon the Guardian Chimera here. Guardian Chimera effect can then destroy the Moon while also drawing us 2 cards. We do, of course, also get to summon our Cornfield Codal off the Baphomet effect. Drawing Ash Blossom, not bad. But it's going to special summon X to Ryzeal. They do get to send the Aggregator, which means we can't use Ash Blossom. Of course, they're going to chain block, as you would expect. They're going to use X to add Node. Now they're going to summon Sword Ryzeal and then overlay the 2 for Duo Drive. Duo Drive attaches. And then they're actually going to special summon a star and set Cross. It's pretty bad for us. It looked like they're about to just activate Duo Drive, which would have been a very clean Ash Blossom. Unfortunately for us here, because they set up Star and Cross first, that means they can negate monster effects on resolution. And now there's not really much of a point to using our Ash Blossom, so we're not going. Summoning a Detonator, Detonator to attach. The Aggregator, now they're going to activate the Duo Drive, searching, looks like plug-in as well as a follow-up Ice. Actually, they're using the Ice right now. with the plugin in order to summon another rank 4. This is going to be Light Dragon to get rid of the Guardian. Oh no, it's Dugaris. Oh, they're playing Fiendsmith. They don't have room for Light Dragon, that's right. Now that's really weird. I thought they went for Dugaris, that way they could double attack to try to battle over, which I also thought was a weird play, but they drew 2 instead? I guess, yeah, they could always use Detonator to pop our Guardian Chimera. They didn't need to battle over it, but I just feel like Dugaris to draw 2 is a little bit of a weird play there. Especially if you expect to get into a grind game, which at this point you should be. You don't want to be skipping your draw phase. That's going to be pretty detrimental for you in the long run. But our opponent's pretty confident here. They've got a 3-mana Detonator as well as Ball Drake plus the Magnum Hut. But let's see if that's actually enough to stop us. We're going to go for Mirror Sword Knight, summon that and activate the effect. We're going to use Cross the Negate on Resolution. We can then pitch Lurie for the Nightmare Apprentice. This not only triggers the Lurie effect to summon, but also, of course, the Nightmare Apprentice effect to search. Nightmare Apprentice will add Elzet Azamina, and then Fabled Lurie will, of course, summon itself. They're going to go for a Droll and Lockbird following that. But Guardian Chimera, I actually don't know how well it plays through Droll off the top of my head. We can do the rest of our Fiendsmith stuff without searching. I'm guessing, I don't know, that's interesting. It's probably kind of hand dependent if I had to guess. Like, I feel like if you had a hand where you opened with Tract and got hit with Droll, as a Chimera player, you'd be pretty bummed about that. Here's Elzet Azamina. Either using Detonator's effect on the Nightmare Apprentice here. Sure, that's fine. Can still fuse the Engraver with the Cornfield Codal. And that can summon Azamina, Moa, Regina. But then we're immediately synchroing the Moa Regina with the Elzet Azamina to summon the Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel F, we're going to banish the Ryzeal Cross. We're going to use Detonator to pop the Lacra because Chaos Angel is made with the light. It's unaffected by monster effects. Which means we can move to battle, swing over the Detonator. And this is exactly why I said our opponent did not want to skip their next draw phase, because now they're in a board state where they really wanted that draw. They can still Magnum Hut for Lubellion, which I'm kind of surprised they have room for Lubellion, like, and so many Bestial monsters in Fiendsmith or Ryzeal. I feel like there are better hand traps that you could be playing, but that's just my own 2 cents, I suppose. And the Regain too, like, how do you have room for all that? Mostly having to cut some important stuff, I feel like. But yeah, no, without being able to draw for a turn, they're really limited in what they can do on their follow-up turn, and I imagine they're kind of regretting making that Dugaris now. I feel like in Ryzeal, I see so many people make Dugaris like willy-nilly. I feel like it requires at least a little more thought. Like, turn 1 Dugaris to draw 2 if you're going off uninterrupted is like, it's fine. It's like not the worst thing in the world, but you really just gotta be careful of skipping that draw phase. It can really come back to bite you fairly easily, honestly. Making a Caesar, we got that in the Chaos Angel. I mean, this is exactly what I mean when I say, you know, we're a control deck that grinds our opponent out of their resources as we build up our own. Our opponent's only got 2 cards in the field, nothing in hand, whereas we have, you know, a Towers. Well, we had a Towers, we're getting rid of our Chaos Angel. We're fusing it away here in order to summon the Baphomet, but we have the Summon Negates off the Caesar. We still have the Ash Blossom. We have another Chimera Fusion. We have the Gazelle Search. We have the Baphomet effect that's about to activate here to send. Chimera Fusion gets to add itself back. Yeah, this resource loop is just wild. I think that's really what defines a control deck, right? Because you think about, like, I mentioned the examples of Lab and Sky Striker earlier. Those, I feel, are more defined and not by setting a bunch of back row, but by a resource loop, right? You know, Sky Striker using Kagari to loop back the Engage, Lab, of course, summoning back the Furniture and resetting the Welcomes off of Lovely and everything. Ugh. Unlucky for us, our opponent's last card there was Cross Out on the Ash Blossom. But it's not the end of the world here. We get to use Fiendsmith in Paradise, getting rid of their Ball Drake. Oh wait, no, we did get rid of their ball drake. We didn't get rid of anything. I feel like that had to have been a misclick, right? We just forgot to activate the Desiree effect. So we didn't end up sending anything there. We could have sent the sword and stopped this rank 4 play, but looks like all they're doing is making a desperation Baguska here, really. And we have ways around that. We are playing a Fiendsmith engine after all, which means we have Link monsters. Link monsters that, of course, cannot be turned to defense mode by Baguska. Gain is going to let them summon Druiswarm. That's fine, whatever. Sequence Diffuse Chaos Hunter and Chaos Angel into Aerial Eater is really funny. Aerial Eater, of course, being negated, but we can use the Chaos Betrayer F to special itself from the graveyard. This does let them draw off Regained, but now we can link off Sequence, Aerial Eater, and the Chaos Betrayer into Abao Aku. Hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. I still have not summoned this monster yet. I've played decks that have her in it, I just haven't summoned her yet. Kind of surprising. Alright, finally getting rid of that Branded Regained. Branded Regained is actually a pretty solid control card in and of itself, right? Giving you summons and draws whenever your opponent does stuff. So we don't want to be outpaced by it, or let our opponent catch up using the Branded Regained. Getting rid of that was a very good call here. Alright, they're going for the Tract, adding Lacrima, and then sending another Engraver from their hand. Abao is going to pop the Lacrima here. They can still send off the Druiswarm to summon Lubellion, so of course trigger the Druiswarm F. Trying to send our Caesar, but we can use Cornfield Codal since we control Chimera to negate the effect that targets. Unfortunately, they can still run over it with Battle Phase here, but mid phase 2, they're going to try to summon the Engraver. And then go for Sequence, I imagine? No, Requiem. Oh, but they... Requiem and then Sequence, right? Because they already used all their main deck. Like, their 2 Engraver and Lacrima are already in the graveyard, yeah. Here's Sequence. Sequence F, but we do still have that Mirror Sword Knight. It'll let us negate the Sequence and leave our opponent with just that and nothing else. And at 3,700 life points, that is going to be game for us. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for that game, Half Brain. I would argue that you have more than Half a Brain. It certainly takes more than that to play a controlled deck like Chimera, I would argue. But anyway, we have time for one more game. Let's go into our last duel here. And last duel comes to us from Gon, aka Steel Blake, over on the Discord server, who is playing with the replay button here. We are going to be playing Ryzeal. A fairly standard looking Ryzeal list, all things considered. And our opponent is going to be on Memento. We're actually going to be going second against Memento. Ooh, they do have the Ultimate Slayer. That is actually tech specifically against us, the Ryzeal deck. I understand why people play Ultimate Slayer and like Metaltronus against Detonator. It is a very clean out to it. That said, I actually think this is like worse than Lancia as far as like if you're playing a specific tech against a specific deck. Lancia does have other uses. I mean, you can use Ultimate Slayer against cards that aren't Detonator, of course, but you're definitely like, I mean, this is a going second card too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, this card doesn't really do anything for you going first, unlike something like Lancia, which can still be used as a hand trap. Metaltronus you can set, sure, but you still have to play the Detonator in your extra deck, which if you can afford the space, that's fine, I suppose, but it is still a pretty... It's a very specific answer. In ranked ladder for best of one, I'm always going to prefer tech options that can answer multiple decks. Or at least tech options that are more generalized and less specific, just because you can't plan for what you're going to match up against naturally. So, I just think having, like... I just still think it's good deck building, in my opinion, to be like, alright, I'll play Lancia in case I play against Malice, and I'll also play Ultimate Slayer in case I play against Ryzeal, and then I'll play a Feather Duster in case I go against Stun and go second. And it's like, you're just diluting your deck at that point, like, heavily. Anyway. Gonna lead by shotgunning Perulia, which I do think is actually pretty good. I know, you know, I've said a lot in the past that shotgunning Maxi and Fulos isn't a great idea, but you do want to shotgun Perulia, that way you can get the draw off the normal summon. Gotta make sure we're getting. Okay, we can Ash their Grand Breakout, but unfortunately it does tribute as cost, meaning Anguish is no longer on the field, which means Valor won't resolve and they still get their search for Tatsuno Toshigo. Tatsuno Toshigo is going to activate here to pop itself and send the crew being Gaddock, Mace, and Goblin. McTillen gets to activate as well as the Gaddock here to summon itself. And then McTillen will summon probably the Goblin. Oh no, they're summoning the Anguish. And they're adding Goblin with the Gaddock. Okay, that makes sense. Anguish F, popping Gaddock to summon the Mace. Now they can use Mace F, pop itself to add Darkblade. Interesting. I thought they would have gone for... they already had the fusion in hand. That makes sense. So now they're fusing that Darkblade. They search for the Creation King. They just want to get another name into the graveyard. Creation King dump Sleepy, Akiran, and Combined Creation. I think that's fair. That's fine. Fusion Graveyard F, pop to search for Bone Party. Akiran to summon Bone Party, popping the Akiran for Darkblade. Akiran F to add back the banished fusion. Now Darkblade gets to pop itself in order to summon Goblin. What it's going to set to before going for the combined creation here. Of course, we know one of those face downs is the fusion. I don't think we know the other one. And then McTillen even gets to reset the Bone Party as well. Okay, so more or less full Memento board. They usually do have at least a couple other things, but I mean, our opponents hit all the important notes here, right? We're gonna lead with X using Aggregator to send that, to negate rather that Creation King by sending the Aggregator. But it's going to destroy said Creation King with Bone Party to go for Anguish. Anguish gets to search and then Akiran gets to summon itself as well. Now here's something pretty interesting here. I would think that Anguish would add Mace, but our opponent's going to go a little bit further. They're actually going to add Sleepy, Special Sleepy, Sleepy F, Fuse Goblin, and Anguish for Twin Dragon. Now Twin Dragon F, pop Akiran, and that's what's going to add Mace, as well as a copy of Goblin. And then Akiran effect lets them add back the Bone Party. So that's, I mean, Memento is... it's one of those decks that really rewards you for knowing your deck's individual game pieces rather than just memorizing a combo line, right? I mean, that's true of every deck. Every single deck you want to know what each of your individual cards' roles are and what they can do in any given situation as opposed to just trying to stick to a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets, of course, are always a good place to start, but Memento is one of those decks where, like, memorizing the spreadsheet doesn't do as much for you as it would for other decks, right? In order to really fully utilize the power of Memento, you really got to know what each of your cards are doing. Now, I just want to stop and talk about this play real quick. This was a very, very excellent play from Gon, aka Steel Blake's part here. What they did is they actually used the Ice Ryzeal special summon effect to set up the Plasma Hole in the graveyard. That way, when the opponent goes to pop our stuff with something like the Fracture Dance, for example, or the Creation King, or what have you, we can simply chain the Plasma Hole using the targeted monsters as an overlay material, meaning not only do we get to summon an Exciton Knight, which will now blow up the opponent's board, but also their pops don't actually get to do anything. Alright, Sleepy is going to send Gaddock from deck to graveyard. Twin Dragon summons Darkblade from graveyard. McTillen summons Goblin from graveyard. Gaddock will summon itself from the graveyard, as well as adding the Anguish from graveyard to hand. But before the opponent knows it, they're going to lose their whole board state because we have Exciton Knight. And there it goes. We can normal summon Ice Ryzeal because we still have not normal summoned yet. Special summon Star F, setting Cross. And then now we can activate Cross, getting a draw in by putting back Node and X. And now we can overlay X and Star for the Ryzeal Detonator. Detonator, of course, is going to grab that Aggregator from the graveyard. Yeah, no damage due to Exciton Knight's effect, but we managed to clear off the opponent's board state while also establishing Detonator plus Cross. It's, of course, more than good enough. Opponent's going to fire off Fulos during their draw phase. Not really sure why. We've already used Plasma Hole's effect, so we're not really going to be summoning during their turn. But to each their own, I suppose. I don't know. Okay, so here we're gonna go for Anguish F. Or they're gonna go for Anguish Effect. We're chaining Detonator to Pop because Anguish is an and if you do, meaning if Anguish doesn't destroy by its own effect, they don't get to summon. Opponent's gonna chain Bone Party, and we're chaining Detonator to try to do the same thing against the Bone Party. Unfortunately, Bone Party does not say and if you do, right? If we read it, destroy a Memento monster in your hand or face-up field, take one Memento monster from your deck with a different name and either add it to your hand or special summon it. There is no and if you do right here, which means that even though we are gonna pop the Anguish, Bone Party still resolves. Oh, because it popped one in hand. I see. Yeah, because it doesn't target, right? So you don't have to pop specifically the one on the field. So they're able to pop something in hand and then still summon from the deck. We're going to try to go for Gaddock F to add a Memento monster to hand. We're chaining the Aggregator to negate that. And then Akiran gets summoned itself, but Akiran doesn't really do anything by itself. All our opponent can really do at this point is go for a Link 2, which turns out to be Donner, Dagger for a higher. Donner F to pop itself and the Detonator. And they get to round out by summoning, of course, the Creation King once again. Or the Combined Creation, rather. Unfortunately, we cannot use Excitonite to destroy the Combined Creation here, because you can only use Excitonite if your opponent has more total cards in their hand and field than you do. And they only had 1 to R3 there, so... 7th Ascension is going to find a 7th Tachyon. Combined Creation brings back Anguish. Anguish F for the Mace. Mace, of course, can take control of one of our monsters, which sounds pretty scary, but we should actually be fine here, because we can go for X Ryzeal. We're going to send a second Aggregator to negate their Combined Creation, but it's already used the effect, so it doesn't really matter either way, but now we can search for Sword. Now here, even if they were to use Mace to take our X, we can still special summon Sword, and Sword will add Ice. Now Ice gets to normal summon and add, and yeah, at this point, like, there's just no way the Mace was going to be enough here. There are some board states where Mace would have been enough to stop us, but not in this scenario. You can special summon Star to set plug-in from deck. Now overlaying X and Sword. We're going to go for Duo Drive. Get a couple of searches in before I make a Detonator here. Grabbing Node. And then a follow-up Ice Ryzeal. You can even special this Ice Ryzeal if we really wanted to, but it's not really much of a reason to. Alright, here's our second Detonator. Attaching one of the Aggregators. Moving to battle, we're going to hit over their Ice they stole as well as the Anguish. They do still have that Combined Creation, but I'm not the most worried about it here. Because even if they were to just like enter battle phase and try to run over our stuff, we can just use Detonator's effect. We can use Detonator to pop the Combined Creation here, as they're trying to use the Goblin. And we negate Goblin on resolution anyway. Now, they do get to summon Combined Creation again, of course, because that's the whole thing. Shuffling 5 back to summon. But, as you can see here, when they battle, they make a crucial misplay that literally costs them the duel. They tried to activate the Fracture Dance Graveyard effect to drop the attack of our monsters by 1,000. But by trying to get in just a little bit more damage, they allowed us to respond with the Detonator effect to destroy the Combined Creation, which of course cannot summon itself back again, especially during the battle phase, which locks in that W for us. That was a very excellent back and forth game. Thank you not only to Gon, aka Steel Blake, but to everybody who submitted for the viewer special. Even if you weren't featured, we could not do this series without your submission. So really, truly thank you one and all for the support for this series and for the channel as a whole. Really do appreciate it. But that is going to be all for now. This is Hexlex, and I am about to sign out. Before I do, let's move on to the outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.